So I believe the next one we had on the line was buy with Prime, right? So
Yes, buy with
let's
Prime.
talk about that. So what I'm sure people have heard of it. I mean, conceptually, it's been around, not as buy with Prime, but multi-channel fulfillment, or MCF for short. But buy with Prime has now taken it to a whole different level, right? So tell us about that.
Yeah, so there are two features with Buy with Prime. So they have Buy with Prime integrated and then Buy with Prime app. But going to back up a little bit. So Buy with Prime, this is the ability to use Amazon's fulfillment on your Shopify D2C site. So having that checkout fulfilled by Amazon and using your inventory at FBA warehouses to do that. And so there's two features with it, Buy with Prime integrated. So this is where they will hard code the Buy with Prime app onto your website. That way customers can check out with Prime. And there was a big gap in this feature in the last year and a half since it's been in beta. It wouldn't allow customers to add multiple products to their cart. And so, huge problem. It would just redirect customers back to the catalog if they added another product to it. And so now, with new development on the Buy with Prime integrated version, they can hard code that feature for multi-cart ad. So it's no longer an issue, which is a big fix and something that a lot of sellers had a huge pain with whenever they were looking at Buy with Prime. So that is now resolved with the integrated version. So on the integrated version, it's just a bit more setup and legwork for the Buy with Prime team to get in place. And then you have your Buy with Prime app. This is the easy app on Shopify that you can just click and integrate over into Shopify with Amazon. But however, it doesn't have the multi-cart feature. So sellers will still have the issue of not having customers being able to add multiple products into the cart without getting redirected back to the catalog. So big updates for Buy with Prime integrated. Buy with Prime app was recently released in the last 2 months, and so I'm sure that they're going to have some more features and the multi-cart ad get fixed along with it. That way, it's an easy install for Amazon sellers to get it onto their D2C site.
So this is strictly for Shopify sellers, right?
Correct.
So this it sounds like an easy thing, but it's not just the app part. There's a lot of logistics part. So what you need to do now is, first of all, you do you have to be an Amazon seller to do this?
Yep. So you'll have to have an Amazon account. And yes, you will have to be an Amazon seller because they're going to take your ASINs and use that whenever they are setting up the integration for Buy with Prime.
So you have to be an Amazon seller and you have to have an ASIN created for this.
Yep.
But that ASIN doesn't necessarily, I mean, because as you know, there are some sellers that don't want to sell on Amazon. So therefore, they don't care about promoting the Amazon listing, the ranking, because they have enough following. But they equally don't want to do fulfillment. So they may be using a 3PL. So now this may be something that they can use so they don't have to use 3PL. Instead, they can send the inventory to Amazon, and Amazon will, with Buy with Prime, will pick up the order, and I guess as soon as the order hits the system, they ship it, right? Just like FBA.
Yep. Just like FBA, it's a more advanced version of MCF. So I actually have a few brands that they would always use MCF, like you're mentioning, where you use MCF, you don't want to sell on Amazon, you have your listing closed, but you got inventory at the warehouse. And so with Buy with Prime, that could be another thing or strategy that sellers could run as well as I have this listing on Amazon. There's inventory at their FBA warehouse, and I'm using Buy with Prime to fulfill it on my Shopify side.
Mm-hmm. Now, the other thing that is a huge deal is that's replenishment, right? So now you have to stay on top of replenishment. So there is a big concern about how much time Amazon takes receiving inventory to make it available for shipment. So as far as the buy with Prime replenishment, so one of the concerns that Amazon that most sellers have is the amount of time Amazon takes receiving an FBA shipment into stock. So how does that work? Do you have any experience? So if you know you have to send in a shipment, you send it, does it take just as long or much faster or longer or not so much?
Yeah, and this is if we're on Buy with Prime, correct? If the seller is on Buy with
Yeah,
Prime.
yeah,
Yeah. So as for receiving shipments, it doesn't help with expediting them or getting them in faster. Um, it does help with reducing quantity limits. So Buy with Prime, since they were previously MCF, they are directly over the restock limits whenever you're shipping in. And so if a seller is on Buy with Prime, but they need to ship in and they don't have space to do that at their FBA warehouse, then the Buy with Prime team can make a request and get you that additional space that you need, which has been super helpful for anyone that's running into quarter 4 restock limits. And so that was something that was really nice to do with the Buy with Prime team. For a few brands that we're dealing with some restock limits. Um, so as for expediting them, it doesn't help with that area,
yeah,
but it will help with the limitations that Amazon sets on
yeah.
sellers sometime.
Yeah, I guess that's a big advantage if you have limits, but you happen to be integrated with Buy with Prime, even though you're not shipping so much, you can still leverage that to increase your limits, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So like Buy with Prime, you can similar to like AWD, you can just select a few ASINs or just one ASIN that you want to test on it. As long as you're in the Buy with Prime program, if it's just that one listing, then you can still get a request for more space for your entire, to send in additional products from your catalog to FBA warehouses. So it's a great lever to pull. And it's not too hard to get in place with the Buy with Prime team for getting more space at Amazon.
How complicated is it to integrate with the Buy with Prime integrated version?
Yep. So we work pretty closely with their team, and from what they've shared with us is once they have the ASIN, that pretty much gives them everything that they need information wise to run through the coding to get that set up on the Shopify site.
Okay, so that's the Amazon people do that?
Yeah, so this is a Amazon program, and so this is Amazon reps, but focused on Shopify. So yes, this is Amazon.
And how do you go about doing this? Is there a separate department or separate, where do you go to get this going?
Yeah. So typically, if you have a agency or if you get contacted by them, that's one way as well. So either having someone who's partnered with the Buy with Prime team to make the setup and the introduction of the brand, or they will reach out to you through performance notifications and emails, letting you know that hey, we think your products would be great for Buy with Prime, to learn more, schedule a meeting with them.
And if you want to reach out yourself, without them contacting you, where do you go? Okay, if you talk to seller support, will they connect you with the right people or no?
I haven't tested that route. I sales support's always the first go to for sure for anything that you want to learn more about. But I'm actually not sure how an individual seller who doesn't get reached out to or doesn't have an agency to introduce them to Buy with Prime can get in contact with the Buy with Prime team. From what I've seen, it's the Buy with Prime reaching out to sellers since it was in a kind of beta program in this last year.